Translation. Remember, you grumbled, O Moses, we cannot endure one and the same sort of food. Pray your Lord to bring for us the products of the earth, green herbs, vegetables, corn, garlic, onions, pulses, and the like. Moses replied, What? Would you exchange that which is meaner for that which is nobler? Well, go and live in a town and you will get there what you demand. By and by, they became so degraded that disgrace and humiliation, misery and wretchedness were stamped upon them, and they incurred Allah's wrath. That was because they began to reject the revelations of Allah and kill His messengers without any just cause. That was the consequence of their disobedience and their persistent transgression against the law. Commentary. This does not mean that their real fault lay in asking for things which entailed cultivation, instead of availing themselves of manna and quails which they received without any toil. What is emphasized here is that rather than being concerned with the great purpose for which they had been brought to the Sinai, they relished the foods which gratified their palates to such a degree that they could not forgo them even temporarily. Cf. Numbers 11:4-9. There are several ways in which one might deny the signs of God. First, one might refuse to accept those teachings of God which one found contrary to one's fancies and desires. Second, one might know that something is from God and yet willfully flout it. Third, one might know well the import of God's directives and yet distort them. The Israelites recorded their crimes in detail in their own history. Here are just a few examples from the Bible. 1 Nout. After the death of Solomon, the state of the Israelites was split into two, the state of Judah with its capital in Jerusalem, and the state of Israel with its capital in Samaria. This was followed by a series of wars between the two states, so that the state of Judah sought the assistance of the Aramean state of Damascus against its own kinsmen. At this, Hamani the seer went under God's direction to Asa the king and rebuked him. Instead of rectifying his behavior, Asa was so angry that he put the seer in the stocks. See 2 Chronicles 16:7-10. When Elijah denounced the Jews for their worship of Baal and invited them to return to monotheism, Ahab, the king of Israel, pursued him for the sake of his pagan wife, so that he had to take refuge in the mountains of the Sinai Peninsula. On this occasion, according to the Bible, he said, "The people of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thy altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword, and one, even one only, am left, and they seek my life, to take it away." 1 Kings 19:14. The same King Ahab imprisoned another prophet, Micah, for no other reason than that of speaking the truth. King Ahab ordered that he should be given only bread and water. See 1 Kings 22:26-7. When idol worship and moral corruption became prevalent in Judah, and the prophet Zechariah raised his voice against them, he was stoned to death in the very court of the house of the Lord. See 2 Chronicles 24:5. When the Israelite state of Samaria was wiped out by the state of Jerusalem, the prophet Jeremiah deplored the condition of the Israelites. He warned them that it was time they set about mending their ways, otherwise they would face an even more calamitous end than that of Samaria. The response to this sincere preaching was abuse and curses. He was beaten, imprisoned, put in the stocks, and lowered by ropes into a cistern, where he was left to die of hunger and thirst. He was also accused of various crimes, including treason and conspiracy. See Jeremiah 15:10, 18, 23, 20, 118, 36, 40. 6. It is reported of another prophet, Amos, that when he denounced the widespread errors and corruption in the state of Samaria and warned of the evil consequences that follow such misdeeds, he was condemned to exile and told to pursue his prophetic task somewhere beyond its frontiers. See Amos 7:10-13, 7:2. When John the Baptist protested against the acts of moral corruption that were brazenly practiced in his court, Herod, the ruler of Judah, first put John into prison, then had him beheaded at the request of a dancing girl, and had his head set on a platter and presented to the girl. See Mark 6, 17-29. 8. The same hostility to prophets is evident from the life of Jesus. The priests and political leaders of Israel ultimately became inflamed against Jesus, who criticized them for their impiety and hypocrisy, and invited them to true faith and righteousness. It was this which prompted them to prepare a false case against him and persuade the Romans to sign a death sentence. Later, when the Roman governor, Pilate, asked them which of the two prisoners, Jesus or Barabbas, a notorious brigand, should be released on the occasion of the feast, they asked for the release of Barabbas and for the crucifixion of Jesus. U 27:26. This is a shameful chapter in the record of the Jewish nation, to which the Qur'an refers here in passing. It is evident that when a nation chooses its most notoriously criminal and wicked people for positions of leadership, and its righteous and holy men for gaol and the scaffold, God has no alternative but to lay his curse and damnation on that nation. Translation: Rest assured that whosoever from among the Muslims or the Jews or the Christians or the Sabaeans believes in Allah and the Last Day, and performs good deeds, he will have his reward with his Lord, and he will have no cause for fear and grief. Commentary: The context of the verse makes it clear that it is not attempting to enumerate in detail all the articles of faith in which one should believe, or all the principles of conduct which one should follow in order to merit reward from God. These matters are mentioned elsewhere, in their appropriate places. The aim of the verse is merely to repudiate the illusion cherished by the Jews that, by virtue of their being Jews, they have a monopoly of salvation. They had long entertained the notion that a special and exclusive relationship existed between them and God. They thought, therefore, that all who belonged to their group were predestined to salvation, regardless of their beliefs and actions, whereas all non-Jews were predestined to serve as fodder for hellfire. To clarify this misgiving, the Jews are told that what really matters in the sight of God is true faith and good deeds, rather than formal affiliation with a certain religious community. Whoever has true faith and good deeds to his credit is bound to receive his reward, since God will judge people on the basis of merit rather than on the grounds that a man's name happens to be listed in the world as a member of one religious community or the other. Translation: Call to mind the time when we raised above you the Tur and made a covenant with you, saying, Hold fast to the book which we are giving you, and bear in mind the commands and precepts contained therein. It is expected that this will lead you on to the paths of virtue and piety. Commentary: From the manner in which this incident is described at various places in the Qur'an, it is obvious that, at that time, it was quite well known to the Israelites. It is difficult, however, after the passage of many centuries, to be able to speak with certainty about the precise nature of the incident. All we can say is that while the children of Israel were making their covenant in the shadow of Mount Sinai, they witnessed an awesome phenomenon and felt as if the mountain was about to fall upon them. Verse 171 of Surah Al-Araf seems to portray this. See also N. 132 in that surah. Translation: But even after that you forsook the covenant. Nevertheless, Allah did not withhold his grace and mercy from you, otherwise you would have been utterly ruined long before this. Translation: And you know well the story of those among you who broke Sabbath. We said to them, Be apes despised and hated by all. Commentary: Sabbath, i.e. Saturday, it was laid down that the Israelites should consecrate that day for rest and worship. They were required to abstain from all worldly acts, including cooking, which they might neither do themselves nor have their servants do for them. The injunctions, in this connection, were so strict that violation of the Sabbath was to be punished with death. See Exodus 31:12-17. When religious and moral decadence, however, spread among the Israelites, they indulged in open desecration of the Sabbath. So much so that in Jewish towns trade and commerce were carried out in broad daylight. The details of this incident are mentioned later in Surah 7 VV 163 FF. The exact manner in which their transformation into apes took place is disputed. Some scholars are of the opinion that the transformation was a physical one, while others hold that they were invested with the attributes characteristic of apes. But both the words and the manner in which this incident is recounted in the Qur'an seem to suggest that what took place was a physical transformation of certain persons into apes rather than just a moral metamorphosis. What seems plausible to me is that while their minds were allowed to remain intact, their bodies were changed into those of apes. Translation: Thus we made their end a warning to the people of their time and succeeding generations, and an admonition for God-fearing people. Translation: Then call to mind the other event, when Moses said to his people, Allah commands you to sacrifice a cow. They replied, Do you mean to have a jest with us? He answered, I crave Allah's protection from behaving like ignorant people. Translation: Then they said, Please make a request to your Lord to give us some details of the cow. Moses answered, Allah says that the cow should neither be old nor immature but of middle age. Do therefore as you are bidden. Translation: But they further asked, Please request your Lord to make it clear to us of what color she should be. Moses answered, He says that she should be of yellow color, so deep and bright as to delight the beholders. Translation: Again they said, Pray your Lord to specify for us the kind of cow that is required, for cows look alike to us. We shall then find her, if God so wills.